Great. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. I am Diana Fulmer, and I am the Financial Literacy Coordinator for Nevada Money Mentors. I work in the Financial Aid Office at the University of Nevada, Reno. Conrad is also on the series today. His volume isn't working super well, so I'll be doing the entire presentation, but he is here to help manage the chat and answer questions. If you guys do have questions or want to pipe in with things as we go through, by all means, please do so. I might not notice it right away, but Conrad is here and he will see it and we can bring it up at the end. Okay, so let's dive in and get started. All right, so who we are, who's Nevada Money Mentors? Nevada Money Mentors is the presentation on campus for financial literacy. We do classroom presentations, tabling events like Dollars and Donuts. We do one-on-one coaching where you get to sit down with a coach, myself or Conrad, and we kind of go through whatever money stuff you want to talk about. We do quite a few appointments every week, and so if that's something you're interested in, by all means, you can schedule that with us. We cover budgeting, savings, study abroad planning and budgeting and savings. What does that look like? How to build up your credit, how to pay down your debt, all sorts of things. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so because we're talking about retirement, I want to make sure that you guys understand that we are not licensed to provide specific financial advice. We are coaches, and we are service provided for the university to guide you in the right direction, but not give formal advice. If you do have specific financial advice, we encourage you to seek the services of a certified financial advisor or a certified financial planner. Okay, so what is retirement? Retirement is the act of leaving one job and ceasing to work. Okay, retirement statistics. So these are statistics for America. So 62 is the current retirement age, just set forth by the government, Social Security, things like that. The estimated retirement age for current workers is actually 64, so people tend to work a little bit longer. When they do that, they get to have more out of their Social Security that they pay into. Savings expectations for a comfortable retirement for people, if they were retiring right now in 2021 and they are of that age of 62 or 64, then they need $1 million. So if you're wanting to retire under 62 or 64, then you need to have a lot more because you're going to live longer, and so you're going to need more money than that. Now, this has increased 10% recently, and so if you are not retiring for another 10 years or 20 years or 40 years, whatever that might look like, what do you think that percentage is going to look like for you? It could be a lot higher than $1 million. And let's see here. And then over half, 55% of workers plan to keep working in the retirement. Now, some of this is because they find joy in that, they find purpose in that, but a lot of people actually feel that they still have to because they do not have enough money in retirement. Okay, so let's talk about what kind of spender you are. Do you find yourself somebody who enjoys saving? Do you like watching your savings grow? Does spending make you uncomfortable? Or are you kind of middle of the road? You definitely find that balance. You enjoy treating yourself. You enjoy going out and spending money, but you also have savings. You like watching it grow, but maybe not aggressively as somebody who's frugal. And lastly, you don't really have savings. You don't budget. You buy whatever you need whenever you need it. What does that look like for you? Does anybody want to share where they might be on this chart? You can share in the chat if you're comfortable. So for me, when I was in college, I was definitely aggressive, but I felt like I was moderate because I had to say no a lot, but I still spent more than I should have. I created debt for myself and I did not have a budget, but it was something I was really passionate about, so I sought it out. I looked for that information, and by the time I graduated from grad school, I really started finding a lot of information on different social media platforms. And I started reading Dave Ramsey books. He's a financial guru. We're going to talk about him in just a moment. So these are really good things just so you can kind of be aware of where you kind of feel like you're at. This is some information I actually got from Dave Ramsey. I think I credited him, but it's kind of cut off down here on the bottom. But let's talk about compound interest. So compound interest is interest earning interest on top of interest. And so what that looks like. So we've got a story of Jack and Blake. They're the same age at the same time. So Jack starts investing at age 21. He invests $2,400 a year, which is about $200 a month. He stops investing at age 30. So he only invests for 9 years and he only contributes $21,600 over the course of that 9 years. Blake, he finally has a good job at 30. He's like, whoa, I need to save for retirement. So he also starts investing $200 a month, but at age 30. He also invests a total of $2,400 a year is what that comes out to. But Blake does not stop investing. He keeps investing until he chooses to retire at age 67. At age 67, he's invested for 37 years of his life and he's contributed $91,200 over that course of that time. But because at age 30, Jack already had 21,000 in invested and Blake did not. Now he still had another 37 years that 21,000 was growing, even though he wasn't continuing to invest. And what that looks like is Jack has $2.5 million and Blake has $1.48 million. That is a huge difference. That's over $1 million difference. Now, this is based on an annual percentage rate of around 11%. Now, does the market consistently do that? I think 8% is probably a little bit more accurate. I didn't take the time to kind of rebuild a chart out at 8%, but the same rule applies, the same concept applies. The sooner you start investing and over the length of the time, the compound interest is going to prove effective. Is anybody shocked by this or surprised that it could grow so much if you're only investing? Could $21,000 actually turn into $2.5 million? Okay, keep moving on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the FIRE movement. This is how people can retire very young. So FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, FIRE. It was inspired in 1992 by a best-selling book called Your Money, Your Life by Vicki Robin. So this became popular almost like 20 years later, really popular when millennials started catching on this idea, and they were like, wait, I don't want to work 9 to 5 for my whole entire life and not have that much fun. Like I want to have more joy in my life. I want to pursue more things that make me happy. So bloggers like Mr. Money Mustache, and there's a documentary called Playing with Fire. Those became really popular. And as a result, more people are starting to realize that they can be financially independent and retire early. And what does that look like? Well, it means you've got to be frugal and save aggressively between 50 to 75% of your income if you want to completely be work free and not bring any more income in. Now, there's some balance in there and we can talk about that. Now, a general rule of thumb that Dave Ramsey preaches and a few other investment gurus to really set yourself up well for retirement, normal retirement, is to save 10 to 15% of your income. We really try to get people to get comfortable to the point of where they're saving 15% of their income so that you are set off very well in your retirement age and you don't have to rely on government assistance or family to take care of you. Okay, so now let's talk about what traditional FIRE and what that would actually look like for somebody. So the high net worth, extreme frugality, then there's this thing called the 4% rule and the 25 times rule. So now we're going to kind of do some math. Okay, so if you spend $50,000 annually, that's not what you make, but that's what you spend. You're earning $125,000 annually. Now, that's really high earnings. A lot of people don't earn that much, but you can still get to that point, and we'll talk about that at the end. But say you're going to be an engineer and you end up getting your master's, and very quickly you can start earning $125,000. But you're going to live frugal and you're going to save $75,000 of that, so you're only living off that $50,000. Now, $50,000 times 25, the 25 times rule, that means in order to retire, you need $1.25 million. Now, how do you get to that $1.25 million? You are going to be saving it, $75,000 every year. Well, that's going to take you 16 years and 8 months to get to $1.25 million. Now, there's things you can do to make this happen a lot faster. It can be invested. It can go down based on it growing quicker. So there's ways to cut this way down. This is just kind of some basic math. Then you take the 1.25 million, you divide it by 4%, that gives you 50,000. What that means is you can pull out 50,000 to live off of this, and this will continue to steadily grow in the market or slowly decline. But if you're only taking 4% out, then you're not going to run out of money in another 16 years that it took you to like save it. It's gonna decrease a lot slower. Okay, so here's some other types of FIRE movements, financially independent, retire early. So fat FIRE, this is for people who are really wealthy. And you could even say that my previous slide was along this because people were earning more than 100,000. So, but they're also wanting to spend more than 100,000 every year. High earners, high savers, they want to live the nice life. And then lean FIRE. Lean FIRE is somebody who is very frugal, very minimalist, doesn't spend a lot of money. They spend between 25 and 40,000 a year. What does that look like? Another option is barista FIRE. So this is kind of the middle of the road. You're actually okay with still working. You enjoy working. You just don't want to be tied to a job 9 to 5, working nonstop all the time. And so baristas, kind of coffee shop style, it can also be called burger flipper FIRE, people who work part-time and enjoy other aspects of life and still live a minimalist lifestyle. And the last one that I see that's very popular among young parents or second parents is called baby FIRE. It's where you work really hard. You may work multiple jobs and you save like crazy, invest some of that money so that you can cover an extended maternity leave. So in America, we're given about 12 weeks, which is right under 3 months. But depending on the type of position you have with work, you might not be paid for that 12 weeks. You get 12 weeks off, but you're not paid for it. So a lot of people have to go back to work sooner. So this allows you to extend it. Maybe you want to take the first year of your whole baby's life off. Maybe you want to stay home with your baby until they're age 4 before they start school, so you can really be involved in their life and they're not in daycare for somebody else. So that's what baby FIRE is. It's the most popular one that I see among young adults. Okay, and then the last one I want to talk about is actually called slow FIRE, also known as slow FI, because you're not technically retired. You're just financially independent. So this is more about the journey than just the destination. So we've got 3 lines on this graph. So the first one, you've got a pretty low quality of life here. You're working 9 to 5, or in my position, 8 to 5, until retirement, which is a pretty long ways away, into that age of 40. Oops, I clicked too soon. So this might wax and wane a little bit. It might be a bit of a roller coaster. Some years are more fun, bigger vacations. And then some years might be kind of hard and work stressful. And then, you kind of wax and wane, but overall pretty low. Well, traditional FIRE that we originally talked about is where you start out here and you're like, no, I'm going to save. I'm going to be super frugal. Your enjoyment for life is going to be low. Your joy comes from seeing your savings account rise. And so you are saving like crazy, and you're not eating out. You're not buying super fancy steak for dinner. You're eating cheaply, not getting coffees, and then 17 years, like we did that math. Now you can quit working. You're in your 30s. It only took you 17 years. So you're in your 30s and you can retire. You can do whatever you want because you've got over $1 million in the bank in your retirement. You can pull out small amounts to do your hobbies, to do some things that are important to you. Well, slow FIRE is where you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to save. I'm going to be conscious of my spending, but I'm going to have joy in life. I'm not going to be stuck into this 9 to 5 job that I don't like, because I want to be financially independent. And so what does that actually look like? So we're going to kind of talk more about slow FIRE, which you can apply to either slow FIRE or traditional FIRE. And some of these principles you can even apply to your regular 9 to 5 job. Okay, so why? Why do you want to be financially independent? What does it look like for you? So time to pursue hobbies, quality time with family, travel more than the limited vacation time that you get from work, control where you work, when you work, the type of work that you do, more time volunteering, less stress, opportunity to move and have geographical flexibility, time to pursue deeper relationships with other people. Looking at the chats real quick here, see if there's anything that anybody questions has. Okay, these are good so far. Okay, so these are the same bullet points from the previous slide. So determine what you actually value the most. Where do you want your time to go? What brings you the most joy? So Pareto principle is 20% is the 80%. So a good way to look at this is that I recently learned it with like clothes and wardrobe, and so it's really helping me like get rid of a lot of my clothes. I have too much clothes, it takes too much space in my closet. I hate laundry, so this is kind of a good example because it's really tangible. So people generally wear 20% of their wardrobe 80% of the time, because the 20% is like a favorite, and then they wear that 80% of the time. And so the other stuff is like maybe a fancy, going out outfit that you don't rarely wear. So this rule has me realize what kind of things I can get rid of. So you can apply that with the things that you value the most too. So as you made that list of things that you want, now you're really going to narrow it down and what is truly important to you, what brings you a lot of joy, what adds happiness into your daily life. And so you really want to narrow it down to a few items. And so this is that 20% that has the biggest impact on your joy and happiness. And so the three I circled here: freedom to pursue hobbies, travel more than the limited time I'm allowed to with work, and more time volunteering and giving back, because that creates some rewarding experiences. Okay, so now how do you actually get what you value? So there's a few different ways you can look at this. Make a change. If you're not super happy at your work or you don't want that, maybe you can find remote work if something moving around is more important to you. Having that geographical flexibility. You can change jobs to something that you enjoy more. You can work part-time. You can make more money if that traditional fire is what's important to you and you really truly want to be retired in your 30s. Side hustles, multiple jobs, find a higher paying job, even if it's less enjoyable job. How to make your money work for you and that passive income. That's compounding interest, that's saving, investing. Spending less. So what does it look like to spend less? Get a smaller home, rent a studio apartment instead of a 1-bedroom apartment, or have a house and rent and have roommates. Have your roommates help pay rent. Have a fuel efficient car, get a smaller car, or use a bike, start walking more, and eat out less. We did a presentation 2 weeks ago about eating out. We realized in our research that students spend around $360 a month eating out off campus. And so if you cut that $200 out and now you only spend $160 eating out, that $200 could be invested. And we already learned from Jack and Blake that investing $200 a month, that compound interest grows pretty quickly. So $200 a month for 10 years at a 12% rate of return turns 24,000 overall to 47,000. So it more than doubles, almost doubles. I guess 48,000 would be doubled. So you get the idea here. Another good question to ask is, does this small purchase support my greater values as I previously defined? So right here, eat out less. So does going to grab this meal with friends, does it contribute to my greater value of not having to work as much? Does this coffee help? Does it support my greater value? There is a blogger, her name is JP Livingston. She's not as active as she used to be, but she had a goal every month of what she could save by cutting her monthly frivolous spending. And it was really interesting because it was like $5 here, $10 here, $30 there. It was little purchases, things that she was like, oh, I want to use this for my house, but no, I actually don't need it. Or I want to buy this new air freshener for my car, or oh, I want to go get my car washed. Oh, but I could actually wait 2 weeks and get my car washed less frequently and put that in savings. And so she'd have a goal because she knew what this math looked like. But instead of thinking about like, oh, it's only $5, oh, it's only $10, it was like, how quickly can I save $200 extra this month? How quickly can I save an extra $300 this month? But just by cutting little purchases, and does it reach my greater value by cutting certain purchases? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that joy right now is having that cup of coffee with some friends. That's where you get to ask that question, but it's making a conscious decision and being less impulsive. Okay, so you can be a millionaire. So let's talk about what that looks like. So in America, there are 20 million millionaires. Over 20 million Americans are millionaires. That's a lot of people. So what does that look like? Who are these people? So here are some really cool statistics. 79% did not inherit any money on their way to becoming a millionaire. That's most of them. 62% graduated from a public state university like University of Nevada, Reno. 8% attended and 8% attended a community college. So what I'm saying here is you do not need to have an Ivy League education to become super wealthy. 31% had an annual average salary of $100,000 or more. That's a lot of money, but that means 70% did not have an average annual salary. And with that being said, 30% never had a six-figure salary, never earned more than $100,000 in their life. 94% live on less money that they make, compared to 55% of the overall population that often spends more than what they make creating debt. 73% never carried a balance on their credit card. Or if they did have a credit card, they paid it off right away, or they didn't have a credit card at all. 50% live in a neighborhood where the average income is less than $75,000 a year. 60% live in a house valued under $500,000. That's more than half. So tips on how can you get there. We talked about the traditional FIRE, saving very high amounts, 50 to 75% of your income. You could, at minimum, start saving 15%. That's the goal. If you can't hit that 15%, what little changes can you do here and there to get to that point? It's not all or nothing. You can save a little bit here and there just to get there. Create those small goals. How can you increase your savings by $10 this month, $20 this month? Avoid credit cards and other debts like crazy. Student loans, car loans, whatever you can avoid and make more money is the key here. And keep things simple. Save consistently and stay away from big risks. We get a lot of questions about cryptocurrency with Nevada Money Mentors. It sounds like the new hot thing, but it is it's very aggressive, and it's very it just kind of like goes up and down like crazy. It's not consistent at all. So that would be considered a big risk and something to avoid. Okay, so we're coming up here on closing thoughts. So eating on a budget was a topic that we had talked about last month, and that is available. So having a regular budget, looking at your spending looks like, examining your values. We talked about what brings you the most joy, eliminating your debt, investing, learning constantly, and personal finance is that personal. What works for you might not work for somebody else, and what works for somebody else might not work for you. You have to go back to finding what brings you the most joy, and then figuring that out and how your finances affect that. Okay, so here are 4-Pillar Freedom is also a really cool company that you can follow and learn from. And so they're kind of comparing that slow FI to traditional FI. So the traditional FI, they're saying this is overrated, is how fast can you reach financial freedom? And people in that community who are doing this, some people are really starting to suffer because they are pursuing it so fast and so deeply that they're losing out on their everyday joy because they are avoiding anything fun. They are so frugal that they're missing the point, but they're getting there. So then they're going to have that financial freedom. And so going back to finding out what gives you the most joy. And then last is, how enjoyable is your life on the way to financial freedom? Being conscious of your spending, saving regularly, investing the right way, and then letting your money work for you so that you can be in a good position. So we're at the end of the presentation. You guys can put some questions in the chat. I would love to ask more questions, answer more questions. Here are upcoming presentations that are like this. So the cost of credit, learning all about credit, how to improve your credit score. What does that look like moving forward? And then in the end of July, every day I'm hustling. So side hustles, how to make your money work for you, how to make more money, bring in more money. And so those are some other topics that we have coming up this summer. So let myself or Conrad know if you guys have questions, and please take a picture of this so that you can give us an evaluation on what you thought of the presentation. And the link is also in the chat if you want to click on it. And then here is our contact information. You can take a picture of this slide if you want to reach out and do one-on-one coaching, or have us do a presentation to a group you're involved in, whatever that might look like. All right, well, I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their day. This is going to be published on YouTube, so if you want to come back and hear it again or reflect on it, you are more than welcome to get this information from us. And here is that evaluation form again. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. That is a great question. Kinsley asked for the second slide where you made the comparison between two hands. How did those savings compound into millions? So there's a lot of years there. And so it's based on a 12% rate of return, which might be a little bit high. There are some compounding interest calculators that you can use to use that. There's one on my phone that I use on, I have an iPhone. And so it's called Easy Calculators. Let me see if I can pull it up on this camera. I don't know how well it'll show up, but it's this little, whoop, it's not going to show up. It says Easy Calculators, the letter easy, and I'll type it in here too. And so there's a compounding interest. You can really play with a lot of the numbers. The math really does work, and you can really mess with it and like calculate all sorts of stuff. So it's honestly just time, and it's interest on top of interest. So after, I'll just put some math in here. So let's say, compound interest calculator. So let's say you put $200 in a month. So just after 12 months, and a 12% return, you earn, after 1 year, you put $2,600 in. That means that the interest amount is $187. And so after 1 year, you have $2,700. And then now that is going to keep growing. And so if you change that amount to say 24 months, now all of a sudden you've invested around $5,000 and the total that you've earned is $5,700. And so that's only 2 years. You've already gained $700 in free money. And so now you keep letting that compound and grow over the course of 40 years. Now you're going to have over $1 million. So this is best scenario. It kind of like moves around. Are there companies out there that you can invest with and pay these types of compound interests? Any suggestions? So it's based on the stock market. And so right now we're heading into a bear market, which is means we're heading into a recession. And so a lot of people get really scared with that, but actually the stock market is still kind of going up and down. I'm really surprised when I log in. Yes, I'm losing money. That is true, but you want to buy low. So now is a great time to get in and start investing. I'm not going to pull my money out because I know the stock market's going to rebound. It always does. We have a bull market where the stock market's doing really good and things are really expensive, and we have bear markets where things start to go down. You want to buy this, if possible, in bear markets and then sell in a bull market. Now, you don't know the future, so you don't know when the next bull market is going to be. So I just consistently buy every single month. I put money into that. And so you can put money into an investment account. And so it can be a retirement-based investment account, or it can just be a simple investment account that's not based on retirement. Now, the difference is that a retirement account has different tax rules with it, and if you pull out before you're 60, you get charged a penalty because you're not in your retirement age. You're not 62 or 64 or 67 based on whatever rules are. A regular investment account, you can take that money out. You will pay taxes on any growth that happened, but anything that you put in initially, you don't pay taxes on. So there are a few companies that have pretty low fees because they're a company, they're going to charge a little bit of a fee, but that would be like Charles Schwab. Fidelity is a good one. Vanguard is a good one. I think Betterment is a pretty good one from what I've heard. You can also invest with a regular bank like Wells Fargo or Bank of America. Those banks tend to have higher fees. Charles Schwab also offers banking options, but they are primarily an investment company. And so with that, you would be actually investing in what's called mutual funds. And so mutual funds are going to be similar across the board from whoever you invest with, and that those mutual funds are they're mutual, and so they have anywhere from like 20 to like hundreds of companies within one mutual fund. And so there might be like Apple and Microsoft, and then other companies that are generally similar. You can also invest in ones that there's airline type ones that's a bunch of different airline companies, and there's a lot of different mutual funds. So again, not a financial planner, not a financial advisor. So I can't give direct information. I don't have that type of degree. I don't know that stuff. I have my own financial advisor and I do what he tells me to do because he has the degree and the education there. So I put my money where he says, but there are a lot of really good options out there. And so there's also target funds, which are also mutual funds. And so a target fund is like, when do you want to retire by? And so if you put 2045, that's like 23 years away, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And as you get closer to the retirement age, it's going to get less aggressive. So it's less risky. So if you head into a bear market, it's going to be less, it's going to affect you less. You're not going to lose as much money. And when it's aggressive, it's going to do better when it's in a bull market. Those are great questions, Kingsley. Did that answer some of your questions?